Good morning. I am the Reverend Joel Miller. I'm one of the co-ministers here at the First Unitarian Universalist Society in Newton. We are so grateful to welcome you all here to our sanctuary this morning for this wonderful celebration. This congregation acknowledges that this congregation and city of Newton, Massachusetts is on the traditional homelands of the Eastern Woodlands indigenous peoples. The indigenous nations of this land are the Akina Wampanoag, Mashpee Wampanoag, Herring Pond Wampanoag, Stockbridge Munsee, Nipmuc tribe, and all the Massachusetts tribes. We acknowledge that Newton became a praying town where these indigenous peoples were forced to assimilate into colonial culture. By agreeing to assimilate, these indigenous nations were promised safety here, but then here these indigenous peoples were punished for having their traditional long hair, punished for speaking their own languages, and punished for creating families with permission of the church. This congregation respects and recognizes our privilege to be living on these lands as guests. We acknowledge the trauma experienced over centuries by the indigenous peoples that live on these lands and who continue to face injustice. We honor with gratitude those peoples who have stewarded this land through the generations and their ongoing contributions to the region. We also acknowledge that these lands are sacred to generations yet to be born. This congregation will continue to create and build healthy relations with the indigenous peoples of these lands. We thank all indigenous peoples.
I'm Reverend Dr. Debra Haffner. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the other co-minister here at the First Unitarian Universalist Society in Newton. We are so happy to see all of you today, especially despite the snow. And we welcome you to our historic 1906 building. Piece of housekeeping, the exits are in the back, and then there's an exit here. The all-gender bathrooms are from the front of the sanctuary, and there'll be somebody to guide you. Fusen was founded more than 176 years ago by transcendentalist leaders, active abolitionists, including the great educators Horace Mann and Nathaniel Allen. The flowers today come from a bequest from the Allen family. I don't know about you, but I can't think of a place I'd rather be today. In a community of justice seekers to honor the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. On this particular day in American history, we come to honor Dr. King, the radical and prophetic leader, not the literally decades later whitewashed moderate. I can't help but wonder, what would Dr. King say about the inauguration that is about to happen a few hours from now? But I am quite sure he would be ready to organize and protest and show up for the most marginalized in our country. He would be urging us to resist white supremacy and racism, sexism, militarism, anti-immigration policies, and homophobia and transphobia. He would be reminding us, as the theme of today states, that it is in the darkness we must look to the stars and to each other. And I think he would remind us that it is only when we are in community with each other that we will retain and ensure freedom and justice for us all. Thank you for joining us this morning. May the connections we all make here today strengthen us for the years to come.
Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you all once again to the 57th annual City Celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. It is an honor and a privilege to be here with you today as we gather and remember and reflect on the life and legacy of a man whose impact on the world continues to inspire us all. My name is Reverend Devlin Scott. I'm the pastor of NewCity Church in Newton Highlands and a Harmony board member, and I am your Masters of Ceremonies for this morning. I would like to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to Reverend Joel Miller and Reverend Debra Haffner, pastors of this church, for their warm welcome and for opening their doors to us today. Let's give them a round of applause. As we begin this meaningful celebration, I invite you to join us in standing as we honor the roots of the struggle for justice and equality with the Black National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing. This anthem holds deep significance for our community and our ongoing work towards freedom and dignity for all. We are privileged to have Miss Christina Devine with us today to sing the anthem, accompanied by Miss Linnea Bardison on the organ. The lyrics to Lift Our Voice and Sing are included in your program, so let's lift our voices today and sing in unity.
Till earth and heaven
has brought us, facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat hath not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out of the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the bright gleam of a bright star is cast. God of our wearies, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in thy path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Thank you, Miss Christina Devon and Miss Linnea Bardison for a beautiful rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing, and thank you to our combined choirs from Myrtle Baptist Church and from Fusion for joining it as well. It is now my honor to introduce a dear colleague and friend, Reverend Cheryl Kerr, who's a senior minister at the United Parish of Auburndale and a co-leader of the Newton Interfaith Leaders Association, or NILA. NILA is a network of spiritual leaders committed to supporting the city of Newton as active, engaged chaplains. We work to be the conscience of the city, bringing together our communities for justice, compassion, and peace. Reverend Kerr's leadership has been instrumental in fostering interfaith dialogue and strengthening our collective commitment to making our city a better place of care, inclusivity, and hope. Please join me in welcoming Reverend Cheryl Kerr.
Good morning and blessings to the city of Newton on this Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Remembrance and Recommitment to Equality. I'm honored and humbled to be here representing your Newton Interfaith leadership. As faith leaders, we have known the truth in Reverend King's mission of love over violence and hope over fear. Every one of our faith traditions includes an imperative of love that builds on justice and peace through equity of creation, and particularly humanity. In a 1967 lecture opposing war, King declared, "When I speak of love, I am not speaking of some sentimental and weak response. I am speaking of that force which all of the great religions have seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads us to ultimate reality." This love that the Reverend Dr. King preached is one we can remember today, especially today. Sorry, I lost my place. It seems that culture would have us deeply divided, defining ourselves at the expense of our neighbors. We are who we are, particularly because we are not the other. Our faith, however, has taught us that this is false at best and dangerous at worst. So then how do we define this love that has the capacity to break through such darkness, providing a light that cannot be extinguished? From one of Christianity's first and greatest theologians, the Apostle Paul, written to a divided community, "Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things." Together, members of the Newton Interfaith Leaders Association pray for such a love that is not loud like a noisy gong or clanging cymbal, but inclusive and compassionate, seeing all of God's created as equally beloved. Nyla is blessed and grateful to sponsor such a worthy event as this, and hold the city of Newton and all of its residents, all of you, in our prayers. Thank you and blessings.
Thank you so much, Reverend Cheryl Kerr, for your powerful words and for our ongoing leadership within Newton Interfaith Leadership Association. We are truly blessed to have you guiding us in this collective work. At this time, I would like to invite my colleagues, counterparts from the Harmony Foundation Board, to join us on stage to share their remarks and reflection, and together we will offer insight on the work that lies ahead to reflect on the importance of the unity and justice in our community in honor of Dr. King's legacy.
Good morning, everyone. The Harmony Foundation's mission is to facilitate learning, interaction, understanding, and respect across racial, religious, and ethnic dimensions within the Newton community, with the purpose of realizing our diversity as a continuing source of community strength. The Harmony Foundation depends on a robust partnership with the community to fulfill its mission and values around racial, ethnic, and religious harmony. On that note, we thank our planning committee members, program participants, volunteers, event supporters, and the audience here today and those viewing at home. Although we have a lot to cover through the next couple of hours in this program, each member of our small but mighty board, save one whose flight was delayed in Charlotte, would like to share a brief reflection on today's theme. Only when it is dark enough can we see the stars. To me, this passage is a reminder to keep the faith, to trust that even in conflict and division, when those things seem insurmountable, we have far more in common than we can see or know or even imagine.
The stars in the night sky shine whether or not most of us take the time to notice. They persevere just as we must. The countless stars add their light together just as we must.
The words of today's theme serve to me as a reminder that when things become dire or bleak, they may lead to or culminate in an unexpected path forward. So as much as possible, we must try to stay alert and open and creative during challenging and difficult times.
And so the theme today for me, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars, hold deep personal significance for me. Dr. King's word serves as a reminder that even in the darkest moment, light is always present. The darkness may surround us, but it cannot extinguish the light within us. So in this instance, we are the stars. We are the ones called to shine in the face of challenges, adversity, and injustice. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to think that our light may not matter, but this quote reminds me that even the smallest light can pierce through the darkness. The darkness does not define us, it's the light that we carry within that defines who we are and what we stand for. So, as we reflect on the theme today, I encourage all of us to keep the light shining. No matter how dark the world around us may seem, we are the stars, and when we shine together, our collective light can illuminate even the darkest of places. Let us continue to shine bright in the face of injustice, in the face of division, in the face of despair, knowing that our light is powerful and capable of bringing about change. So like the song says, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. It is now my honor to pass the microphone over to the Mayor of Newton, Mayor Ruthanne Fuller. I believe Mayor Fuller has been a steady advocate for our community, always working to ensure that Newton remains a place of inclusivity, equity, and growth for all of our residents. We are grateful for her leadership and for the work she does to build a stronger, more unified Newton. Please help me welcome our Mayor, Mayor Ruthanne Fuller.
Good morning. Echoing Reverend Haffner, I feel it is particularly important for all of us to be here together at the First Unitarian Universalist Society to celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King, to reaffirm his words and work, and rededicate ourselves to the values he espoused. As we gather for the 57th time in Newton to celebrate Dr. King, our government in Washington, D.C. is just hours away from transferring power from one democratically elected president to another at an inauguration ceremony steeped in the traditions of our nation. This solemn moment, repeated every 4 years, can bring with it a sense of renewal and hope, and also sometimes a sense of foreboding and uncertainty. As we contemplate a future fraught with challenges. We feel concerned about our children's future, for one, because our economy remains fragile. We watch with aching hearts the aftermath of destruction in Southern California as wildfires fueled by wind and drought destroyed home after home, neighborhood after neighborhood, knowing that it is our actions that have led to a changing climate which fed the flames. We see the clouds of political divisions, of distrust and of incivility that hang over our nation and are also darkening our skies here in Newton. We fear that drunk with the wine of the world, too many are questioning the goal of human rights. We are filled with apprehension that the difficult march forward toward liberty, equity, inclusivity, and equality may be shifted into reverse. We remember what the dark past has taught us, from Muslim bans and a pandemic labeled a China virus, from white supremacists labeled fine people, to the suggestion of immigrants eating pet dogs and cats. At difficult times like these, one instinct is to pull back and try to avoid the taunts and scorn on social media, in emails, or in person at a community meeting, at public comment at City Hall or the Ed Center, or in the grocery store aisle. That is not my instinct. I stand today resolute in my conviction of the promise of our young people, including Ava, Ellis, Susanna Noor, the youngsters in the Troubadours, in the enduring truths of Martin Luther King, and in the noble cause of justice, civil liberties, and human rights. Reverend King's words, spoken in another moment of division in our nation, still ring true. I quote, "We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. This is no time for apathy or complacency. This is a time for vigorous and positive action." So today, for all of us, in spite of the difficulties and frustrations of the moment, as Dr. King said, we gather strength from each other to renew our commitment to work together to fight hate, religious bigotry, sexism, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, and together to fight racism. In these uncertain, chaotic times, as I look around at all of you, and by the way, what an advantage it is to be able to come and stand up here and see all of you. At some point, we all need to stand up and look at each other. The room is full, and it fills my heart. So as I look around at all of you, I do have faith in our community. I remain buoyed by the people of Newton here today, who are guided by Dr. King's dream
and by the promise of America. I see Tony, Karen, Tamika, and Devlin of Newton's Foundation for Racial, Ethnic, and Religious Harmony. Thank you for pulling today's celebration together and for leading persistently this community organization that nourishes understanding and acceptance of people of all faiths, races, and ethnic backgrounds. And in your mission statement, you reaffirm that diversity is a source of our community's strength. Thank you. Thanks also go to Sharon Stout, Vice Chair of our Newton Free Library, Ellie Axe, wherever you are, of Story Starters. I saw Kate Carpenter-Bernier and the Newton Youth Success Collaborative, Cindy Green and Forge, Rabbi Keith Stern of Temple Beth Ovadah, the Newton Rotary Club, who always shows up. Thank you, Rotarians. The Village Bank. All of you were essential in pulling all of us together today. Reverend Miller, Reverend Haffner, Reverend Kerr, Reverend Crowley, Reverend Scott, a special thank you to each of you, for you are the spirit of Dr. King here today, and dare I say also the spirit of Reverend Howard Haywood. I see State Representatives Amy Sangiolo and Greg Schwartz here today, City Council President Mark Laredo, members of the City Council, including our Vice President David Kalis, Martha Bixby, Tariq Lucas, Susan Albright, Bill Humphrey, Julia Maliki, and Randy Block, and double-hatted our school committee member, Tamika Olszewski. And importantly, the superintendent of our Newton Public Schools, Anna Nolin. I want to close with the words of Robert F. Kennedy, who said on April 4th, 1968, just hours after Dr. King was assassinated, the following words. He was speaking from a flatbed truck, and I just learned he was wearing his big brother's, the former president's, black overcoat that day. I hadn't known that. And he broke the horrific news to a group of Black residents who had gathered for a campaign rally in their Indianapolis neighborhood. This is what he said. What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence or lawlessness, but love and wisdom and compassion toward one another, and a feeling of justice towards those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or they be Black. We can do well in this country. We will have difficult times. We've had difficult times in the past. We will have difficult times in the future. It is not the end of violence. It is not the end of lawlessness. It is not the end of disorder. But the vast majority of white people and the vast majority of Black people in this country want to live together, want to improve the quality of life, and want justice for all human beings who abide in our land. Let us dedicate ourselves to what the Greeks wrote so many years ago, to tame the savageness of man and to make gentle the life of this world. Let us dedicate ourselves to that and say a prayer for our country and for our people. I end that quote, and in that spirit, all of us, we pray for our country, our city, and all our people. We rededicate ourselves to making real the promises of democracy, and we recommit to trying to make gentle the life of this world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Fuller, for those inspirational words and continued leadership here in Newton, our city of unity, justice, and progress. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Troubadours, a talented youth choir made up of young people from all across Newton, led by Jamie Alberts and Eric Ritter, and accompanied by Emma Campbell on piano. The Troubadours bring their energy, passion, and voice of celebration to us today. They will be performing two pieces, Riamo Laboga, a traditional hymn from Botswana, and then La Musique by Alexis Neenan. These songs reflect both the diversity of our community and the unifying power of music. So please help me welcome the Troubadours to the stage. If you have a child between the age of 3 and 8, please join them and head to the Children's Chapel Room for Story Starters. This is not a drop-off event, parents, okay? You have to accompany your children. For those families who have already joined here in the sanctuary, you can, we'll take a quick little pause to allow you to exit through these doors here and head down the hallway to the Children's Chapel. As for the rest of us, we are going to prepare ourselves for a wonderful presentation from our Newton Public Schools students who are here to share their reflections with us. These young leaders are truly inspiring and represent the next generation of voices committed to making a difference in our community. First, we have Ava Andrade, a junior at Newton South High School and a proud member of the METCO program. Ava is a hard-working student who excels both in and out of the classroom. She is a member of the Legacy Scholars Program, placed third in her South Sophomore Speech Competition, Yay Speech, and volunteers at her church Sunday school. Ava also leads an initiative to grant sports equipment to underprivileged children. She also enjoys practicing Taekwondo and playing volleyball, all while striving to positively impact her community. Next, we have Ellis Brown, also a junior at Newton South High School. Ellis is a member of the debate team, co-president of South Taekwondo Club, and a member of South Senate, where he works to make a change in the school community. He was the winner of South Sophomore Speech Competition, Yay Speech, and is a member of the Legacy Scholars Program as well. Ellis also plays an instrumental role in inspiring the Williams Elementary South Affinity Group program and has been a consistent participant. We are also joined by Susani Louis, a junior at North High School and is a proud member of the METCO program. Susani embraces her Haitian and Costa Rican heritage and is a Dover Legacy Scholar, a drafting major, and a member of the girls swim and dive team. Passionate about racial justice, law, government, and diplomacy, Susani aspires to study law in college and become a lawyer to make a meaningful impact in her community and beyond. And lastly, we have Noor El Feki, a senior at Newton North High School from Tanzania. Noor is the president of BLAC, the Black Leadership Advisory Council, a Dover Scholar, Legacy Scholar, and has been involved in Lost and Found, a cabaret written and performed by people of color for 4 years. Noor plans to study economics in college and aspires to work in the fashion industry. These young leaders are truly the stars shining in our community. After they share their reflections, they will be joined by Dr. Anna Nolin, the Superintendent of Newton Public Schools, and will engage in a conversation about their remarks. Please help me welcome Ava, Ellis, Susani, and Noor.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ellis Brown, and today I will be giving a speech on something that I believe was at the core of Dr. King's advocacy, and that is his love for civil disagreement. But first, do me a quick favor. Look to the person next to you. You can wave hello or whatever, but remember their face. By the end of this speech, you're going to be willing to fight that person. not in the way that you think, not physically, but in a battle of words. Argument. In the current day, we have collectively stepped away from discourse. And some of you may think that it is a good thing. I mean, argument can be frustrating, it can be tiresome, it can be annoying, it can be downright excruciating to even listen to. But hey, I don't want to argue. Is a phrase that many of us are familiar with and use regularly. However, despite all of that, allow me to be a little bit controversial. I think that argument is good, or I think that having arguments is good. And if any of you disagree with me with that, by all means, let's debate about it. All jokes aside, how else are we supposed to resolve this disagreement? As a society, as a country, we do not communicate. Polarization, intellectual divides, partisan censorship, all run rampant today and all present a grave threat to our democracy. I mean, I'm aware, that sounds like a lot of fear-mongering nonsense. I mean, democracy and free-fall, we're all sitting here right now, we're all fine. I mean, aren't we? Are we? Our last Congress, the least productive Congress in decades. We have had the least amount of bills passed in a single year since 100 years ago during the Great Depression. 34. 34 bills passed by 535 people. Imagine you owned a construction company that employed 535 people, and you only built 34 houses in a year. Why are we so unable to cooperate? Well, let's look at the science. As human beings, we naturally gravitate towards positions that we agree with and shy away from those that we do not. And now, the world is more structured than ever to allow us to do so. Case in point, do you know an app called YouTube? Are you ever scrolling that app and you get recommended a video that you watch and think, well, that really resonated with me? Or, well, that's exactly what I think. I think the exact same. Yeah, that's no coincidence. YouTube's algorithm has curated that video for you because it is thinking, well, that's exactly what the user thinks. They think the exact same. So logically, they are going to enjoy it more. Simply put, the human instinct to pursue similarity and shun opposition is precisely why a recent study found that 3/4 of Americans are unwilling to have a debate with someone who disagrees with them. And 25% avoid people who might have different views than themselves. How do we expect to foster cooperation within our democracy if we can't even bring ourselves to interact? With this being said, what I'm arguing for is more arguing. That 25% of people in America who are willing to have debates, who are open to discourse, must grow to a full 100%, but we have to do it right. We have to argue right. Quick question. Do any of you remember the 2020 US presidential debate? I only ask because that debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump serves as the perfect example on how not to argue. I mean, it was chock full of personal insults, of yelling, of deflection, so much so that people rightfully consider it a joke. I mean, these people are supposed to be the leaders of our nation. Why are they yelling at each other? Unfortunately, in our current day, this is what most arguments are. If you repeat your opinion enough times without responding to any counter-arguments, well then congrats, you're victorious, you've won the argument. We cannot continue on like this. We cannot continue to bicker pointlessly. We cannot continue to lead with anger because ultimately, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. That is a quote from Dr. King, from a sermon he delivered standing in front of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in 1957, Montgomery, Alabama. Today, Dr. King's words have never been more relevant. If our democracy is truly going down in flames, pointless debates are only fanning the fire. What dampens the flames is civil discourse, replacing the yelling with listening, substituting the insults for assertiveness, making the effort to comprehend the opposing view, and articulating where you specifically disagree. If pointless debates are what our arguments are now, civil discourse is what we should strive for our arguments to be, having an end goal in our debates, using civil discourse to frame our arguments. That is how we'll create the best world for everyone. We are able to get more done and be more effective when we surround ourselves with people who challenge our opinions, when we push back on each other's claims, when we dare to disagree. This is another thing that Dr. King attempted to teach us. In the face of being cursed at, spat at, attacked, degraded, Dr. King never stopped believing that the best way to disagree was to do so with our words and not our fists. His displays of peaceful disagreement, of civil discourse, should serve as a lesson to us all on how to conduct ourselves in this polarized nation that we live in. Unfortunately, today we still feel more comfortable wrapping ourselves in our own opinions rather than actually addressing opposing views. You can believe a lot of the counter-arguments to your views are stupid, foolish, or make absolutely no sense. That's all fine, but take that extra step. Elaborate on the why, and express that very clearly to the other side. Two sides will never move towards a middle ground if each side is too comfortable where they stand. Our society is currently divided, but we cannot remain that way. As Dr. King himself once said, we must learn to live together as siblings, or perish together as fools. That's why my goal with this speech was to make you uncomfortable enough with the state of our society to compel you to act, to argue. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ava Andrade, and before I begin, I just want to say how impressed I am with the amount of people in the audience today. When I saw the weather this morning, I thought, wow, Martin Luther King inspired us to march for justice. But I didn't know he inspired us to walk in this weather. If nothing else, we've proven that we're dedicated, and maybe a little bit frozen too. But seriously, I am honored to be celebrating his incredible legacy with all of you here today. I'm that oddly shaped puzzle piece no one knows where to put. I'm Cape Verdean, which means I have both Portuguese and African heritage woven in my blood. Being Cape Verdean comes with a range of benefits: amazing food, great rhythm, and a language that is so mixed you can understand a little bit of Spanish, Portuguese, and even French. But it virtually signed me up for the reality of having no place to belong. Dr. Martin Luther King famously dreamed of a world where people would be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Yet for those of us who are multiracial, the struggle to define ourselves within a society so invested in categorization can feel isolating. Us multiracial individuals represent an expanding population in America's diverse society. Results from the US Census Bureau showed that of the total 334.9 million people in the United States, 33.8 million of the population indicated their background consisted of more than just one race. Yet why is there still no place where we can say we fit in? Mixed race students in high school constantly face challenges because of their complex cultural identities, resulting in the need for more awareness, encouragement, and the community in school. But why does this matter? I'll tell you. When I was younger and hung out with my African American friends, I never truly felt like a part of the group. I didn't look like them, have the same mannerisms as them, and didn't understand any of the inside jokes because I was the only one who didn't take the Boston bus. Same thing with my white friends. I looked differently, and they all lived in the same neighborhoods with closer relationships. Now it turns out I'm not alone. So many times I've heard the people around me say the same frustrating thing: I'm not enough of this or of that. Martin Luther King advocated for inclusion, equity, and unity. Yet for over 50 years, the struggles of mixed-race students simply hasn't been recognized, and it has led to higher mental health issues. And the effect is obvious. Steve Roberts, a psychology doctoral student at the University of Michigan, found that when multiracial children are misidentified or placed in an incorrect category, it can affect their self-esteem, motivation, and ability to form quality social relationships. But it doesn't stop here. Mixed-race children are often at far higher risk of depression and anxiety because of identity crisis as they navigate school, interact with peers, and begin to come to terms with their identity. Let's say there were to be a mixed-race affinity group at South. Some may argue that emphasizing racial differences may worsen racial tensions. But Dr. King's vision teaches us otherwise. He believed in the power of shared humanity, and an affinity group would not divide us, it would bring us together by facilitating the understanding and appreciation of diverse perspectives, resulting in stronger connections and a common goal. Another argument is that mixed-race individuals can go to one or both of their race's affinity groups. Except, how are we supposed to pick which side of our culture is more important? And won't choosing insult the side not chosen? So often we feel as if we're not Black enough, not Asian enough, not Hispanic enough. And it leads us to wondering, when are we going to be enough? When will we be able to not be 25% or 50% one race, but 100% ourselves? Maybe someday those racial categories will be dissolved and we'll no longer have to choose. I'm that oddly shaped puzzle piece no one knows where to put. I'm Cape Verdean, which means I've had the privilege of embracing the mix of multiple identities within myself, navigating the delicate balance of heritage, traditions, and the complexities that come with being mixed race. Establishing an affinity group for students of mixed races is a step towards realizing Dr. King's vision, a step towards creating valuable relationships, fostering communication, and providing a space where people like me can share our distinct experiences. It is not enough to stay silent. Now is the time to step up, educate ourselves, and demand real inclusion and respect for students of mixed races. Because for a better tomorrow, we must start today. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank you all for being here, and I think Ava and Ellis deserve one more round of applause. What if the story of your identity could be told through your hair? If my hair could talk, it would begin with its origin story. Let's go back to the very beginning. I was brought to life in France, where I spent the first 5 years of my life as a cute mini afro hairstyle on the head of a little girl named Noor. Noor was a huge bundle of joy, lighting up every room she walked into. When Noor moved to Tunisia in 2012, she attended an international school with students and teachers from diverse backgrounds. Her love for diversity flourished those early years. She often asked questions about the different cultures around her, fascinated by the stories they held. The curiosity became a central part of her identity. However, the school had strict rules about hair. Hair had to be tied up in a ponytail or a bun. Frequently, I was tugged and pulled tightly, often knotted and making every combing session painful. Nobody in Noor's family really embraced their curls, except her mother, who even she struggled to manage my own coils. As years went by, Noor began to doubt my beauty, as well as her own. But she tried to push those doubts back to the back of her mind. In 2018, when Noor moved to Boston, I noticed that the hair on the other girls rarely resembled me. They all had hair that was pinned straight, tamed, and free of frizz. Now, Noor's love for diversity turned into a longing for acceptance. She began to constantly burn me with her efforts to straighten me, trying to look like her new classmates. I noticed Noor started to compare herself to others more often. I felt hurt and confused. Why was Noor destroying me? Well, now that I reflect, maybe she had to make me look this way to be accepted, to be beautiful. Afros are messy and too much work anyway. And like the French say, il faut souffrir pour être belle, or in English, beauty is pain after all. Years of heat damage later, I could not take it anymore. Noor also realized it was time for a fresh start. a haircut. Off we went, Nor and me, to a salon that specializes in curly hair. After that, Nor began to look after me again. I felt free and beautiful. Entering high school, Nor saw many different hairstyles, including those that resembled mine. Watching other girls embrace their curls intensified this new fire within her. She was done hiding to fit in with a beauty standard that was unrealistic to her. Her renewed self-acceptance revived her curiosity about the diverse world around her. She started exploring beauty of different cultures, seeing that each one has its own unique expression, including hers. Now, Nor encourages girls with hair that resembles me to look after and to love their curls, reminding them of their grace and sharing her hair routine with them. In taking pride in my curls, she has found the courage to embrace her identity, fostering a community where diversity is celebrated. She aspires to help others on her journey to self-love and acceptance and to champion their individuality. Our differences, she believes, are what bring us together. Pain is not beauty, confidence is beauty.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Susani Lewis, and I will be giving my speech, which is on colorism. Growing up, I was often told that I wasn't Hispanic or Latina, even though my dad is Haitian and my mom is Costa Rican. However, people would insist that I'm only Black because of my complexion. Most people of the Latinx and Hispanic community are viewed as being lighter skin tones. Across the world, and even in the US, since being Black or even being just dark is viewed negatively, people with darker skin are discriminated against in multiple ways that determine their opportunity and future. This is called colorism. Colorism is the prejudice or discrimination against individuals with darker skin, typically amongst the same ethnic or racial group. Colorism should not be determining one's fate and opportunities. We all have different complexions. Some are dark, some are light, and some are just in the middle. Children tend to get this perception of colorism from their parents and society even before they can tell right from wrong. In the 1940s, up until today, psychologists designed and conducted an experiment known as the doll test to study the effects of segregation on African American children. The majority of kids who took part in the doll test decided that the white doll was either better, prettier, or smarter than the Black doll, because Black was considered ugly and stupid. Kids are exposed to these opinions through every aspect of society. This idea of darker skin being considered these things has been traced back to slavery and people describing slaves these ways when they were only categorized by their skin and not by their character. Today, people tend to show this preference without even knowing, which is due to their implicit bias. Implicit bias is a bias that is unintentional that affects judgments, decisions, and behaviors. Implicit bias through colorism can be found amongst many Black families as they make preference to favor any children with lighter skin because they are then either close to white passing or pretty, giving them a leg up in the world. This bias is also present amongst many dating preferences in the world. Many people prefer to date someone who is of a lighter complexion in and or outside of their ethnic or racial group. It is common for people to do this and try to defend themselves by saying they're not racist, which may be true, but when the reasoning begins with that, and they base their preferences on a lighter complexion over a darker complexion, when those two people may act the same, it is clear that it comes down to their complexion. This issue affects many communities of color. According to Pew Research Center, darker-skinned Latinos in the US have reported to have a lower advantage of getting ahead in society as they aren't white passing enough as many Latinos are. This idea of being lighter has been passed down through generations all around the world and has never been corrected. And in continuing to do this, we end up giving lighter skin complexions a sense of superiority. Today, we are constantly fed the idea that we are entitled to having personal opinions, leading to believing we are entitled to our own type or preference in education, dating, and jobs. But who exactly told us this? Because if you aren't choosing someone for their characteristics and what they have to offer, then you're not even choosing that person. You're only picking someone based on what society has decided is better or prettier. Until we can move past using skin as a confirmation, no one should have the right to say they prefer a type. Remember, at the end of the day, if we all burn, we are all colorless with only our characteristics to tell us apart. Thank you.
Good morning, Newton. What a beautiful job, Troubadours, you did, and Eric and Jamie, thank you so much for today. And also our student musicians right here, I think we need a round of applause for you. I was always in the band, so congratulations, good job. Thank you, Harmony Foundation and Interfaith Partners, for the honor to stand before you today to honor the legacy and life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man who stood in the darkest of nights and called us to seek the light as we do today. In the address for which today's theme is centered, King declared, "Only when it is dark enough can you see the stars," and reminded us that in moments of despair, there's always light, if only we have the courage to look for it. And this outlook and framing is critical, an important life orientation and way of meeting challenges of our time that can and should be actively practiced and cultivated. The alternative is to linger in conflict, division, and hopelessness, and that is not the way I see the Newton community and its future or its current status. Days like today are so important because they nourish our hearts and join us together and remind us of the light and the love that exists between us and among us, and it recharges our commitment to amplify the light and right in this world. In the message about darkness and its relation to light that King promotes in our featured speech today, we find that light is not just words, but in the voices of our own community. And as someone who has spent a lifetime devoted to amplifying the light that is our young people, I think our youth leaders today, our speakers here, Ellis, Noor, Susani, and Ava, illuminate the path forward with their stories, their insights, and calls to action. And I seek now to amplify and uplift the light and compassion of their speeches and advocate that more listening in this world, sort of a companion to arguing, but more listening in this world is also needed. I would also like to thank these students for putting their truth out there, and I would also like to thank their teachers, Blaine Lopes, Katani Sumner, and Pam Pissner. Are you here? If you are, say hello. Thank you for helping them. You are also lights, all teachers are within our community, inspiring, supporting, and leading students to show their own lights, and in doing so, showing their own. Ellis challenged us to embrace disagreement as a force for progress, and he sees the darkness of division in our society, but his vision of civil discourse is a light. And like King, Ellis knows that democracy thrives when we dare to listen to one another, to argue not to win, but to understand. And in a world where shouting drowns out dialogue, Ellis told us the arc of justice bends only when we pull it together. Noor brings us the light of self-acceptance through her journey of embracing her natural curls. She shows us the beauty of diversity, not as something to hide, but as something to celebrate and cherish. And in her story, we see how authenticity can illuminate not only our path, but that of others, creating a community where every strand of identity is valued. Susani shines a light on the pervasive shadow of colorism, revealing how these implicit biases continue to shape opportunities and perceptions. But her courage in addressing this often overlooked issue channels Dr. King's call to uproot justice whenever it resides, even in the corners of our own hearts. And she reminds us that true equality is built on the recognition of every shade of humanity. And Ava, with her powerful metaphor of the puzzle piece, speaks to the challenges and triumphs of being multiracial in a world that always asks us to fit into categories that can never contain us. Her vision of a space where mixed-race students embrace all parts of their identity is a beacon of hope to those who struggle with the same reflections and to those who may struggle with understanding our increasingly diverse, multiracial, multicultural, and multilingual world. Ava embodies Dr. King's dream of a world where no one is forced to choose between pieces of their identity, but instead can be fully, gloriously whole. King taught us the darkest nights are the moments when the most light is needed, and we might argue that right now is one of those times. And so, I don't know if you know this, but I created a podcast for the Newton Public Schools called The Superintendent's Secret Sauce. You can catch it on Apple or Spotify. In it, I feature all of our students, staff, and teams in the Newton Public Schools that make this a truly premier place to learn and grow. And many of the episodes will show you the light and leadership of our young people, the secret sauce, if you will. And I always ask how they came to be so excellent in an area, a skill, a talent, a vision, a leadership, or an act. And since the theme of our day is to lift these lights in our community, we are going to recreate that podcast experience for you live. So my first question is for you, Ellis. So in your essay, you emphasize the importance of civil discourse and productive argument as a bridge to help us strengthen democracy. What lights shine for you personally, whether they're experiences, values, or people, that inspire your belief in this power of dialogue, even in today's very challenging and polarized times?
I think one light that I've found specifically is right in my very own school, my debate team. On debate, I don't think a lot of people know this, you don't prepare to debate one side of any topic and just run with that one side. You have to prepare arguments for and against both sides of the argument. Because when you get to your debate round, they'll just flip a coin and decide which side you're going to be arguing. Now, I don't mean to claim that high school debate is the best example of civil discourse. Trust me, those rounds can get pretty heated, but I do think that, as I've been in debate, my ability to engage in civil discourse has gotten better because quite literally, I've been trained to see things from both angles, almost, yeah.
So it sounds like you feel like more practice is needed, which also probably means more forgiveness. Have you ever had a conflict in debate that was really difficult?
100%. Last year, I had disagreements and conflict with the person that I was actually debating with, my debate partner. And I think that was something that was really hard. It was something that contained a lot of emotion, and it was hard to really sort through that entire debacle. But I think that ultimately, how we pushed through it and how we overcame was actually taking a step back, trying to remove some of the anger, some of the heat from what we were discussing, and trying to see it from the other person's shoes. Okay, what is this other person saying? Oh, maybe I should take that into consideration. I think ultimately, these values are at the core of civil discourse, and I think that's what's allowed me to have this strong belief in the power of civil discourse.
Thank you so much. Ava, so if you could pass the mic down there. Your metaphor about the puzzle piece and a call for spaces for multiracial students was really moving and valuable. What has allowed you to have strength to advocate in such a way for this community where everyone can belong?
Sure. I think first and foremost, I gotta say, friends and family. They're the people who are always next to you, they're always around you, and you're always talking with them and having discussions. They share their struggles with you, and you get to hear what they go through, and if you've gone through the same thing, you share your experiences. That was like the inspiration. It's so frustrating when you hear the people around you say like, I'm not enough, and it's heartbreaking to hear. And that was really, the lights that supported me, and they were really behind me. And it's just great, to have the courage and to have those people behind you, encouraging you and, wanting you to go forward. And they're just always there for you. And so that was really a big inspiration, but also the Legacy Scholars Program, which was mentioned a few times. Ellis is also a part of it. Are you guys also? We all are, I guess. And essentially, it's a group where mixed race, multiracial, Latinx students can come together. The kids who, are taking a struggling course load, like a challenging course load, who have high GPAs, and we get together and we have these meaningful conversations, and it's just really wonderful to hear those other voices and to talk to those other people who you don't see often, who are not in your regular classes, and to really hear what they also have gone through, and that's just amazing.
Thank you. Susani, you confront the issue of colorism, which is something that a lot of adults have difficulty discussing. So what allows you to be so courageous in being able to speak about this, and what do you do both personally and out in the world to make sure that you fight these implicit biases in the world as you interact in the world?
Thank you. What I would say motivated me to discuss this issue or to almost combat it would be, since, like I also mentioned in my speech, growing up, I'm Hispanic and Afro-Latina, so I say Afro to embrace my black side, and my mom is black and Hispanic and Latina because she's from Costa Rica, and many people would look at me and try to tell me that, oh, I'm only Haitian because either I look like I'm Haitian or just because of the complexion of my skin, and they like to think that many people who are Latina or Hispanic have to have light skin, soft hair, really loose curls, which isn't true, which I found completely shocking because whenever I visited my family in Costa Rica, I would see them all who are black, just like me, speaking Spanish. And I would say that built up anger and the need to prove myself to my peers that I am Hispanic, or trying to figure out how I can improve my Spanish so quickly so I can prove to them if they say, do you speak Spanish? And I would try to really work on it. And at the end of the day, one day I realized, I was like, I'm so tired of this. What's the point of me even having to prove myself to somebody who doesn't even know me, who can't identify who I am? Only I can do that, and I know what I am, who I am, Hispanic and Latina. And I use that as a motivation for me to educate the people around me and let them know that just because my skin is brown, or if anyone has darker skin, does not mean that they aren't part of any ethnic or racial group. It doesn't define them in that sense.
Thank you. As you can hear, you're inspiring people right here with that kind of internal courage and mind shift, and I am personally inspired as well. And speaking of inspired, Noor, your story of embracing your natural hair and the creativity of telling this story from your hair's perspective, I admired that as an English teacher and as a woman. What has guided you through those moments of self-doubt so that you could champion authenticity in the way you did just now?
I would say that my mother has been my biggest advocate for as long as I can remember, since I was a child. And even during times where I would hate my hair, she would remind me of how unique it is and beautiful it is and how many different forms it can take. And I think, yeah, I would say my mother has really helped me. And then once I finally decided to embrace my curls, kind of the environment around me, I've realized that not everyone is gonna look at my hair and think it's disgusting or ugly or messy or gross. There are gonna be people who are gonna think that, but that's none of my business, So, but I think also, especially entering high school, like I said in my speech, seeing a lot of people with hair like mine definitely helped me out. Because honestly, even to this day, sometimes I lack confidence in terms of my hair, but then I remind myself of my family members, the people around me, my community. I'm not the only one who has hair like this, and it's beautiful. It's something to embrace and to cherish and to be grateful for.
Thank you. Nice. In school research, there's research about types of leaders that are called boundary spanners. They go out in the world, they find good ideas and innovations, they bring it back, they shop it around with the people like them and not like them and find a new understanding. I think you're all boundary spanners, and your stories today sharing with us certainly is a light. The light is right here in Newton. It is with our youth and in every one of us. Let's carry forward the light of these young people today. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you for challenging us in public discourse, making room for mixed race peoples, the confidence of hair and the beauty of the melanin that is the diversity of our complexions. Thank you, Ellis, Ava, Noor, and Suzani. And thank you, Dr. Nolin, for your words and leadership. Let's give them one more hand. Now I invite you all to enjoy the song, I Need You to Survive, with music and lyrics by David Frazier. This song was actually written in the aftermath of 9/11 from a New York church as a reflection on the deep interconnectedness of humanity and the importance of supporting one another in times of hardship and crisis. The song today is performed by our joint choir made up of the Myrtle Baptist Church Voices of Inspiration and the First Unitarian Universalist Society of Newton Choir. This powerful song reminds us that we all are connected and we need each other to survive. So let's listen, reflect, and be inspired by the voices of this talented choir. Please help me welcome the joint choir to the stage.
You need
Thank you so much for the joint choir for the beautiful performance of I Need You to Survive. The words of that song truly resonate with us today. You are important to me. I need you to survive. In a time when unity and support is crucial, these words remind us of the power of community and the importance of each and every person in our shared journey. So thank you, choir, for reminding us of that truth. Let's give them one more hand. It is now my great honor to introduce our speaker for the morning, Reverend Dr. Brandon Thomas Crowley. Dr. Crowley is an African-American pastor, preacher, author, and scholar in religion, theology, and queer theory. Since 2009, he has served as a senior pastor of the historic Myrtle Baptist Church in Newton, one of America's oldest Black congregations founded by formerly enslaved Africans at the end of the Reconstruction. Myrtle Baptist Church is also one of the few open and affirming historically Black churches in the United States. In addition to his pastoral work, Dr. Crowley is a lecturer in ministry studies at Harvard Divinity School and is currently serving as the 2024-2026 Honorary Distinguished Fellow of the Department of Classics, Ancient History, Religion, and Theology at the University of Exeter in England. He has taught courses at Boston University, Emory University, and other esteemed institutions. Dr. Crowley earned a PhD in Church and Society and a Master of Sacred Theology with a certificate in Social Justice from Boston University School of Theology. He also holds a Master's of Divinity from the Harvard Divinity School and a Bachelor's of Arts in Religion from Morehouse College. His first manuscript, Queering Black Churches, Dismantling Heteronormativity in African American Congregations, is being published by Oxford University Press. Dr. Crowley's work challenges societal norms within African American faith communities and paves a new pathway for the future. Beyond his pastoral and academic roles, Dr. Crowley is a leader in many communal organizations, including serving as the inaugural member of the Council of Religious Practitioners and Scholars for the Smithsonian Natural Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. He also serves on various boards and is a passionate advocate for social justice and community service. Dr. Crowley's research and ministry have been featured in prominent outlets such as the Associated Press, the Boston Globe, NBC, and CBS, and his work continues to influence faith communities and beyond. It is a true honor to have Dr. Crowley with us today. Please join me in welcoming Reverend Dr. Brandon Thomas Crowley to the stage.
Good morning. Every time I listen to my bio, I am reminded how much money I owe Sally Mae with student loans. I am so honored to be here. What a blessing and an honor to be asked by my colleagues in a meeting if I would share words on this day. But before I begin words of reflection with you, I want to pause for a moment to celebrate the 4 student speakers who've gone before. Their work, their words, absolutely brilliant. I stand with great hope for our future. For the time that is allotted to me this morning, I want to speak from the topic, A Tale of Two Kings. A Tale of Two Kings, a Martin King lecture for American citizens in 2025. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. These opening words of Charles Dickens's A Tale of Two Cities capture our present American reality with unsettling precision. It is the best of times because we gather today to celebrate the legacy of Dr. King, people of all different backgrounds and colors, to acknowledge a man who strategically envisioned and labored to restructure a nation with justice, equality, and love. But it is also the worst of times, because Donald John Trump's inauguration this weekend is a stark reminder of the divisions that challenge our progress and threaten the very ideals we honor in Dr. King's memory. Today, on King Day, a man will be put into the highest office of the land based on the color of his skin rather than the content of his character. This juxtaposition, a Kingian celebration of unity, amidst the stark Trumpian divisions, embodies the tensions of America's age-old tale of two nations. One nation striving to let freedom ring, and another retreating into exclusion and inequity to uphold entrenched systems of white male land-owning dominance. We live in the divided states of America. Now more than ever, we need Dr. King's ethics to guide us in mending and mining the gaps between America's divided minds. But this will be hard to achieve because there are 2 different Martin Luther Kings to choose from. The one that is the real one, and the sanitized, distorted, and whitewashed counterfeit. Today we are wrestling with a tale of 2 kings. Dr. King is often remembered as a dreamer who inspired hope with his famous address at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom on August 28, 1963, formerly titled Normalcy Never Again. This speech, however, is more commonly known by its concluding refrain, "I have a dream." This was the iconic moment that cemented Dr. King's legacy in the halls of American history as a symbol of aspirational change. Yet, as we celebrate Dr. King, we must confront the uncomfortable certainty that this enduring image of him as a dreamer often overshadows the complexities of his constructive work, the depth of his theology, and the radical nature of his calls for justice. In an article titled "More Than a Dreamer, Remembering Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Monroe H. Little, a distinguished professor of Africana Studies and History at Indiana University, argues that, and I quote, "Over time, King has been reduced to a mere dreamer who advocated an allegedly colorblind society. And as a result, our national memory of him has been diminished to a one-dimensional caricature, erasing the human cost of his struggle and silencing King's urgent appeals for justice." End quote. This one-dimensional colorblind version of King neutralizes the radical disruptor he truly was. Similarly, one of King's contemporaries, Vincent Harding, observed that honoring Dr. King with a national holiday came at a price: the deliberate erasure of his most challenging demands for systemic accountability. So just as I spoke a moment ago about a tale of two nations, one striving towards a vision of justice and equality and the other retreating into division and exclusion with Trump's election, this conversation sets the stage for a deeper exploration of a tale of two kings. Doctors Little and Harding remind us that America has told two different tales about Dr. King for decades. One portrays him as a non-threatening, sanitized and diluted symbol, softened to be palatable and comfortable for white America. The other reveals the true King, a radical agitator for justice who challenged and threatened the very foundations of America's society. This dual narrative forces us to grapple with the deliberate erasure of King's transformative work. It compels us to reclaim King's legacy in its fullness. Therefore, we cannot simply keep the dream alive. We must also keep the true King alive in all of his radical and transformative ways. This, Newton, must be our beckoning call. This must be our rallying cry, because whiteness is trying to rewrite history and re-kill the real king while shaping a new counterfeit king in their image and likeness. And this is no accident. It is intentional. The white creation of a counterfeit king reflects a broader pattern of historical revisionism that seeks to depoliticize black leaders. And let me tell you, America has a bad habit of turning black radical voices into palatable symbols, stripping away their transformative power and banning the books that tell the truth about them. Think of Rosa Parks, who was reduced in American history to a tired seamstress with sore feet, when in reality she was a seasoned activist and organizer since her teenage years. Or Frederick Douglass, who is often remembered by the white establishment as an eloquent black man with intellect, but rarely for his scathing critiques of American hypocrisy. This is what America loves to do. She loves to whitewash black radicals with the cyanide of respectability politics, turning them into good house Negroes, all for the maintenance of white power, simply because this nation refuses to reckon with her damnable past. And this is a problem. And Dr. King himself warned against this in his lifetime. In his book, my favorite of his writings, Why We Can't Wait, Dr. King condemned the ways America refuses to reckon with its history, calling for reparations. Put your money where your mouth is. Calling for reparations to address centuries of unpaid wages and systemic exploitation and the creation of a free labor force on the backs of black childbearing women. This Dr. King described as a problem, and I need you to understand that these are not the words of a passive dreamer. They are the battle cry of a revolutionary. Martin Luther King Jr. was a radical. He was a drum major for justice, fighting for jobs, advocating for the poor, and working to dismantle whiteness, 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 whiteness is the progenitor of American racism, the great-great-granddaddy of American poverty, the great-grandmother of American xenophobia, the progenitor of colorism that we heard about, and the discrepancy between hair textures and xenophobia. Whiteness is the progenitor of xenophobia. Why are you talking about xenophobia, Crowley? Because let's not forget how some white Americans initially treated Italian, Irish, and Jewish communities when they first arrived before they too became white. Whiteness is the great American sin. That enslavement is the dumb offspring of. And I know that it will be uncomfortable to do so this morning, but to truly grasp the depth of Dr. King's challenge, we must confront the concept and construct of whiteness. Not as a skin color, but as a system of privilege and dominance. Whiteness operates as an invisible norm, shaping power structures and reinforcing social hierarchies rooted in racial ignorance. Racial ignorance. Whiteness is both a psychosis and a deliberate construct born out of ignorance. Ignorance is the problem. Dr. King said it like this in his 1967 book, Where Do We Go From Here? He says, and I quote, "Whites must frankly, it must frankly be said, are not putting in a similar mass effort to re-educate themselves out of their racial ignorance. It is an aspect of their sense of superiority that the white people of America believe they have so little to learn." Did you hear what I said? Dr. King's words are just as critical today as they were in the 1960s. We need to hear his words, but be careful. Be careful because, and I have to use an urban colloquialism here, because everybody quoting King ain't about that King life. Some people are intentionally misinterpreting and weaponizing King's words against what he truly stood for, to uphold whiteness. Let me give you an example. They claim Dr. King wouldn't support the premise of Black Lives Matter, citing his line about not judging people by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, to argue against affirmative action and equity-focused policies. But I want to argue, as my brother said this morning, and state unequivocally that is ludicrous. This is why I am challenging you to reclaim the real king and his true vision for justice, because this is exactly what whiteness does. Whiteness loves to flip the script and play the role of the fragile victim, all in an attempt to avoid facing the truth of this nation's history. America does not want to face her sins. And this is a problem, because in the words of that great queer prophet James Baldwin, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So my question for white America and my question for the choir, I'm preaching to the choir this morning. I believe that we are in this together, but I have to say it as a prophet. My question for white America is, do you want to face it? Are you willing to face the truth about whiteness and take action to dismantle it? And for those who are born white, this requires a willingness to confront the privileges afforded by your whiteness. Know this, that true allyship demands a daily commitment to dismantling the systems of oppression that sustain inequality. To be white and not defined by whiteness is a possibility, but it begins with becoming aware of your whiteness. The denial of whiteness, its power, its privilege, is the very epitome of whiteness, and such is an evil and reprehensible sin. Yet, through repentance, there is the possibility of new birth. To die of your whiteness, to be born anew and afresh, a chance to shed the burden of your whiteness, because whether you know it or not, it's heavy. Shedding that burden to embrace your full humanity as someone who just happens to have been born white. So the question also is, do you want to be born again? Not in the traditional Christian sense. I'm not proselytizing. This is an interfaith space. But I'm speaking about in a non-white way. Are you willing to lay down your whiteness on the altar of humility, love, and reconciliation? The choice is yours. But know that the work of dismantling whiteness is not a one-time act that you can go to a King event, check that box off, and brag about it at work. It's a lifelong commitment. Because, and I share this from my heart, I say this because full anti-racism can never be entirely housed in white skin, because the burden of your white birth is that you must forever confront and reject the systems of privilege and dominance that whiteness creates and sustains, checking yourself for the ways in which you may be sinning without being aware. The never-ending journey towards anti-racist living requires diligence and humility and a willingness to listen, to back away and stop taking up so much space, to learn from others, to act when asked and not asked, and then not acting when you are asked not to act, and acting when you are asked to act, when you are seen and when you are not seen. Because your whiteness in this country gives you credibility to be heard in a way that my blackness never will. So the choice is yours, because justice is hanging in the balance and demanding that we not only remember the eloquence of his words, but that we challenge ourselves to be committed to his action, to be committed to his action. That's what we need our white allies to do, because I have to be honest, this work cannot be placed upon black shoulders to lead, because black people are tired. We are tired of being the saviors of the world to only be denied by the world. White people need to do this. My friends, white people must do more than just keep the dream alive, because the dream was for us. The work is for you. I say this in love. White America, this is not your dream. Dreaming is what oppressed people do because they lack the power to change things under the empire. For the privileged, dreaming becomes an escape from reality. Dreaming for the oppressed is a coping mechanism, but for the privileged, dreaming is a pastime. I wish white people would stop dreaming as a way of avoiding the hard work of justice. We don't need dreaming white people. We need white people to wake up. Because the dream was not the solution. The dream was the blueprint for the solution. King was the dreamer, yet even he never had envisioned that we would dream indefinitely. If dreaming is the only thing we're doing, then we've mistaken the dream for the destination. The truth is that black people are tired of dreaming. We want to see change and feel safe enough to wake up. We are weary of dreaming because no matter how beautiful a dream is, everybody eventually wants to rise from their slumber to a safe reality. Black people have been whistling Vivaldi, turning our dreams into performances, operas, paintings, novels, songs, and speeches. Our dreams were meant to change the world, yet far too often white America turns our dreams into entertainment, stripping them of their urgency and power. Negro spirituals weren't written to entertain. They were coded messages for survival, ways to escape the tyranny of white terrorism. But instead of recognizing their purpose, white folks said, "Isn't that beautiful? The N-words are singing." They turned our songs of resistance into amusement, profiting from our pain while sipping cheap wine and applauding our misery as a masterpiece, leaving our black souls screaming, "When will our morning come, O Lord?" Our weeping has endured for centuries, and the scriptures have failed us. This is the perpetual death that living in an anti-black world as a black person yields. And this is what killed Dr. King. King is dead, not by natural causes, but by the hands of whiteness. And this graphic reality is the history we must remember. Whiteness killed him, but there is hope. We can resurrect him. He can live on in us if we would just be king. So let us resurrect him, not as a sanitized symbol of harmony, but as a radical prophet, a bold strategist, and fearless builder he truly was. We can resurrect him in our commitment to justice and each other. We can and must resurrect him by having the power to speak truth to power and safety to all of humanity. We can resurrect him by organizing, advocating, creating police reform, dismantling oppression, and fostering equity. So, my challenge for you this morning is to be king. Take up his mantle. Be king. Overturn the tables of culture. Be king. Craft new world orders that echo the call of justice. Be king and resurrect him. We must commit ourselves to continuing to keep the real king alive. Because resurrection is not just about what happens after death, but resurrection is also about what we choose to give life to today. Because as long as we are willing to act, the dream, in the words of Lorraine Hansberry, is not deferred, but within our reach. God bless and thank you.
Wow. I feel like I have to fan myself a little bit after that. Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Crowley, for the inspiring words and for the challenging words, for the ways in which you shared your wisdom and challenge with us this morning. Your leadership continues to challenge us, man, and encourage us to take bold steps towards justice, unity, and healing in our community. As we all reflect on the legacy of Dr. King, his legacy of service, we are reminded of the many ways that we can continue to do his work, how we can be kings in tangible ways here in our community. And as Brandon so eloquently said, sometimes you just got to put your money where your mouth is. So I want to invite you to take a small step in doing that this morning, as there are so many different ways in which you can support incredible work that's happening throughout the city of Newton. There are many generous ways to give, and some of you have already donated to the food, to Harmony Foundation, to the food pantries here in Newton, to different causes of support for racial, ethnic, and religious harmony. And we want to remind you that your impact is real, that your giving makes a big difference. And in the tradition of Dr. King, this day is a reminder that service to others is a path to justice and to peace. I also want to invite you to consider giving to the scholarship fund that is named in honor of Reverend Howard Haywood. The story of his impact is listed in your program, but allow me to just highlight a couple things. Not only was he the pastor of the historic Myrtle Baptist Church for many, many years, he was also one of the founding members of the Harmony Foundation under the mayoral leadership of Ted Mann. And so he helped put together the organization that helped put together this event today. Not to mention that it was his concept and idea and leadership that brought Martin Luther King Day celebration to Newton to begin with 57 years ago. So we are grateful for his impact and his influence. And in a way to honor him is to give back to the next generation of leaders who you heard on the stage today. There are QR codes in your program. You can scan those QR codes, but I'm going to make a little pitch for you to scan that QR code for Reverend Haywood's scholarship fund that helps raise up the next generation of leaders here in Newton. And because we really want you to give, I'm going to invite our wonderful band to come up and just give you a little giving music, if that's okay, to motivate you to take some time. So take out your phones, go ahead and scan that QR code. You may not, if you don't get a chance to do it to this moment, you also have opportunities to do it after this moment. But we want to just give you time, just a few minutes, to be able to do that while the choir comes back and prepares to close us out in a song. No worries, we got you. Thank you, everyone, for your generosity today. Your support enables us to continue the important work of building community rooted in justice, unity, and service, just as Dr. King envisioned. So as we get ready to close this celebration, I would like to invite, well, they're already up here, but I would like to invite the Troubadours to join us up here as well, if they would like to. We would like to invite the clergy here as well to join us up here for this closing song of We Shall Overcome. This is a traditional anthem of hope, resilience, and the unwavering belief that through unity, we will overcome the changes and the challenges we face. So let's join together now in this song, We Shall Overcome.
Good afternoon. Congregation, you're also welcome to sing with us if you'd like. You can stand or you can sit. This song is traditionally sung with crossing hands this way, holding to your neighbor if you want to. Please don't feel obligated. But when we cross arms this way, it's a symbolic gesture of the solidarity and unity and signifies a collective stance against oppression and a shared commitment to the song's lyrics. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
Thank you, everybody, for joining in that. What a powerful, your powerful voices as we sang We Shall Overcome. As we conclude this part of the ceremony, the celebration, please join us outside the sanctuary right down the hallway for a community fair where dozens of local nonprofits will be showcasing their incredible work. This is a wonderful opportunity to connect with organizations doing meaningful work in our community. There will also be a reception to continue the fellowship and celebration. We'd like to extend our deepest thanks for the wonderful caterers, Salt of French Press and Needham, Nicely, Chez Empanada, and Sandwich Works, coffee and water provided by Fusion Beatles. Your generosity and support has made today's possible. Please take a moment to refer to the list of resource tables in your program. We apologize for the accidental omission of Newton Community Ed and Dream Far, and we're glad to acknowledge the addition of Nicely as one of our caterers. We appreciate your understanding. Before we conclude, I would like to thank ZOZA, the quartet here, Z Music on keys, Ruthanne Godry on drums, Corrado Bato on saxophone, and Oscar Bonenkamp on bass, for providing beautiful music for us. I would also like to acknowledge our clergy in the room. If there's clergy in the room, just wave your hand. Thank you for being here today. A special welcome to one of our newest clergy members, Dr. Eric Johnson, who is the new pastor of Ellered Church in Newton Corner. Thank you once again for being a part of this meaningful day. We continue to this commitment of Dr. King's legacy and what fuels the work that we must continue to do together. Enjoy the community fair and reception and have a wonderful fellowship ahead. Have a great day, everyone.